It's Dave. Thank you to everyone that's putting the meeting on. Thanks for inviting me over. It's much appreciated to be asked to share on my home group. I'm not going to lie, absolutely shit my pants earlier on. My sponsor's on here. I don't think he's heard me share before, and obviously it's my home group. There's a lot of familiar faces on there, so but I'm all right. I'm all right. Taking some deep breaths. I've done a little bit of meditation. I've followed people's leads and done a little prayer beforehand, so I'm all right. Um, my name's Kieran. I'm a very grateful recovered addict today. Um, and if there's newcomers on the meeting, what I want to say to you is my story is not going to be your story, just like it's not going to be, everyone's story. Listen for the similarities, not the differences, because it's important. I remember in my early days, all I did was like, that's not me, that's not me. I ain't going to listen to her, I ain't going to listen to him. But now I listen through different ears, and every share's got similarities. So um, I'm 48 nearly in a couple of weeks, and my madness didn't really start till I was about 41, 42, I think. I was a late bloomer. I grew up in a normal house, mum, dad, siblings. Everything was all right, as far as my memory allows, holidays and all that kind of jazz. But working through the steps and listening to shares and speaking to people, I spot traits from when I was younger um, that I had in active addiction. Picking up hobbies that lasted 5 minutes because I watched Christian Slater on a fucking skateboard in some film. So all of a sudden I need a skateboard because I can do that. Watch another film about someone playing roller hockey. All of a sudden I need a hockey stick and rollerblades and fall off after 5 minutes. I ain't picking that up again. All kinds of madness like that, 5 minute fads, and nothing ever really kept my attention. That little quick dopamine fix of wanting to do something special, but it never lasted. In my teens, smoked a little bit of hash. Didn't really have a lot of weed around back then. It was just that little solid block of hot rock burns, cider in the park, drinking stupidly to blackout, thinking my mates were doing the same, but they weren't. I was just 100% on everything. It was all or nothing. And drink was never a thing for me in the madness, but in my teens, I thought I was doing the normal stuff that my mates done. Didn't really try anything proper until I was in my late teens, really late teens, about 80, 90, maybe 20, I don't know. Started taking pills for nightclubs, and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely amazing times. Everyone was my best friend. I was the coolest guy around. I loved it, but it wasn't a problem. I just done it at the weekends when I went out with my mates. Then I met a girl, um, and I stopped. Just couldn't do it anymore. She had a kid. Um, we got engaged. In hindsight, it was the most ridiculous thing I'd done to that point because at 23 years old, I proposed to this girl and showed my mate the engagement ring. He's like, "What's that?" I said, "An engagement ring." He goes, "You're not going to propose to her. You don't even fucking like her." But at the time, 23 years old, I thought it was going to be left on the shelf. This one likes me, so I've got to stick with this one because this one likes me. This one puts up with me. At 23, what the fuck did I know at 23? I don't still know at 48, so I had no chance at 23, but we got married, we had a kid. 3 years later, we got divorced. Um, Moved in with the next one. We had a kid, got engaged, got married, and yeah, do you know what? I thought hit the jackpot in life. We both worked. We both had a like little side hustle business, legit business, and we were making good money. We had our own house, and it lasted probably about 9, 10 years. I thought I was happy. Do you know what I mean? I had everything I wanted. I had a big TV, I had the newest phone, I had the missus, I had holidays. And then one day I come home from work and she went, "Yeah, I don't love you anymore." Off you go. And I think that was the start of the downfall for me up here. Um, Come out of that relationship, found out 2 weeks later she was seeing someone else. I was like, fuck me, in 10 years, it's only taken me 2 weeks. So I've done what every person that's heartbroken does, jumps on Tinder, date after date after date, and then I met someone about 6 months later, decided it'd be a good idea to settle down again because it worked out well for me the last 2 times, obviously. So it's a long distance relationship, and she was a good girl, real nice lady. But it was like a 2 hour drive, and it lasted for a few years. Then she started talking about moving in and things like that. In that time, I'd gone through some shit. My youngest daughter had leukemia. She's all good now, but the COVID hit, and I lost my job. So I went and worked in a sales job, and after a couple of weeks, went out on a staff party, got absolutely off my tits on gear, and within a couple of weeks, it was an everyday occurrence. She moved in, didn't know about the coke habit, and I thought I'd get it under control. When she moved in, obviously because I've got someone to be accountable to. But basically, she moved in, and within, I don't know, it must have been about 18 months, I lost everything. She found out about the coke. She found out I was a cheat. She found out I was just a bit of a scumbag in general. And she moved out. Then I couldn't afford to keep the house. I could afford my drug habit, but I couldn't afford to keep the house. I was in a car accident. Car got written off. I lost my job. I lost my businesses. My kids stopped talking to me. Every single one of these new rock bottom after rock bottom after rock bottom. I know will be a good cure for that. I'm going to go and get off my tits again. Sitting in lay-bys was my thing, the days on end. You know, and I'm talking like 2, 3, 4 days. I'd be sitting in the car. The only time I get out is to have a piss or pick up. And it was just an absolute degenerate, shitty life. But I thought I was some kind of G. I loved it. But after I lost everything, quite similar to my sponsor story, I was a true gangster when I moved in with my dad. My dad lives in an old people's home, and I moved into a box room in an old people's home. And you'd have thought that'd have been a kick up the arse, wouldn't you? But no, it wasn't. Just gave me a free rein to carry on. And I was in and out of CA, in and out of CA. Never taking it seriously, never getting it. It never clicked. I never understood it. You know, my theory was if I did 12 steps, I'm going to be cured. But I couldn't even get as far as step 4. I couldn't even, go a week without using. The most I got was a couple of days, I think, at best. I still picked up my 30-day chip because I couldn't face the humiliation of admitting I relapsed. And then, I met someone while I was living at my dad's, and absolute diamond. And I eventually moved in here, and I thought, I cannot fuck this up, not so much this is my last chance, because everyone's got another relapse in them, but I just didn't think, because what I should have said is I got clean for a few months by myself because I was quite happy. Then I started obsessing about it. Then I had a couple of little relapses, still a relapse, right? Whether it's one line, one bag, whatever. But I knew I had something special. And if I continued having these little relapses, I was going to lose it all again. So I reached out to my old sponsor, and he said, "Sorry, mate, I can't help you. I haven't got availability, but I'll put you onto this other guy." So quick text, ring me tomorrow. I can't remember what the time was. We'll say 10 o'clock. Now, my former sponsor was Richmond Line, so I knew 10 o'clock meant 10 o'clock. It didn't mean 9:59. It didn't mean 10:01. It meant 10 o'clock. And I'm pretty sure I started off on the right foot. I'm pretty sure I did. And, I just had a chat with this guy, and he said he'd sponsor me. And I can honestly say, for the first 4 weeks of working with him, doing the daily directions, I didn't think about it. I didn't obsess about it. Right? There's a difference between thinking about it and obsessing about it. My obsessing about it was making all kinds of mad plans. Um, and then like week 5 or 6 hit, and oh my god, the obsession come over me. Like it was insane. It come out of nowhere. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how the fuck am I going to cope with this? You know, because before, all it needed was my mate texting me saying, "Hello, mate, how are you?" That was a green light. Who's picking up, me or you? That's what it's going to be, right? Um, so I done what I never done before when I was in CA before. I never done this. I told my sponsor I did. I fucking rang someone. I rang a complete stranger. "Hello, mate, how are you?" "Actually, I'm pretty shit at the moment." "Why? What's up?" And I said the story out loud. I told him what I was planning, how I was planning it. Saying it out loud, I thought, you sound like an absolute dickhead. Because in my head, the other side of my head is going, yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, do that. No, she won't find out, mate. It's going to be fine. But when I said it out loud, come off the phone, I was like, wow, that's such a sense of relief. But it still wasn't gone. So I made 5 phone calls that day, one after another. And it was one of the best things I've done. Started working steps, had a little curveball thrown in when I was working steps. Um, they found a tumour on my spinal cord, and it required pretty quick surgery. So, kind of the step work was on hold. I was in hospital. Operation went well. Woke up, couldn't feel anything from the tits down. Completely paralysed for a couple of days, and slowly started getting the feeling back. And to this day, I'm still not learning to walk, but I struggle to walk. There's been a lot of issues because it was on the spinal cord, so the nerves are all messed up, and they say it can take up to a couple of years to fix. But the whole time I was in hospital, which was, I think it was about 6, 7 weeks, not once did I think, I know what will make me feel better. I know what will take the pain away. There's a little shop over there. I wonder if I can find a dealer in London. I just did not even think about it. When I was in hospital a couple of years earlier for an infection, I had a delivery to my bedside table in hospital, and I was racking up on the hospital tray. What kind of shitty behaviour is that when you're in hospital, right? But when I was in hospital this time, it didn't cross my mind. Couldn't have many visitors because no one could get down to London. So I just worked my program. I was on the phone. I had to keep my phone on charge because I was literally on the phone or on a meeting all day. I was still fulfilling the service commitments that I could do while I was in a hospital bed because I weren't, I was able bodied enough. There was a couple of days when I was in hospital that I felt really like, worries me. I can't walk. I need help going to the toilet. My dick might not work. No one's coming to visit me. Oh, I'm so hard done by. And I'd make a phone call to someone and just have a chat about it, you know? I was quite careful not to ring someone that just like try and put an arm around me because I didn't need that. That made me worse. But I stayed present. I ran the sponsor. I've done gratitude lists, prayer and meditation. Kept myself positive and happy, doing what I was told by the medical staff, and come out and finish my steps. Say finish my steps. I worked through step 2, step 12, and lo and behold, I'm then able to sponsor someone. Me, I'm able to sponsor someone. What the fuck? I don't know what I'm doing. You know, that was quite a terrifying thing for me at the beginning for sponsoring someone. I was putting my hand up as the person that's available to sponsor on all the meetings, to put my name and number in the chat, I was reaching out to people. And, I was waiting for physiotherapy. I was waiting a couple of months for that. And things started getting tough because I weren't getting it. I wasn't getting better. And I started getting lost in my own head a little bit. Never thought about using it because I was working the program. And, it might sound corny, it might sound cheesy, but it fucking works. You know, it's kept my head straight in so many situations where before I'd have just gone off the reservation. You know, I know going to get a couple of bags, I won't feel the pain I'm feeling on a daily basis. You know, drink was never a thing for me. Take it or leave it. If I went out on a big night out, I'd drink, but I could do what I wanted because I was on the gear. But you know, the rest of the time it was just the gear or the pipe. But I did start sponsoring, and people say, you know, when you're out sponsoring, it's something different in recovery. You know, it helps you stay clean. And I was like, does it though? Does it though? It does. Working with others is it's really enlightening, and it makes you see the work you've already done in a totally different way. You know, um, what's my life like now? My life is pretty fucking awesome. I live with my missus. She's got 2 kids. We've got a small flat. Yeah, it's a pokey little place. We've got a car. We go away for weekends from time to time. You know, we do the basic stuff in life. And, you know, I've said this before when I've shared back. At nearly 48 years old, right, I can tell you that the last nearly a year has been the first time in my life where I felt contentment. You know, that peace in your soul, that peace in your heart and your mind, where I don't need a new car. I don't need a new phone. My phone works. I don't need a bigger TV. I don't need all of this stuff that I'd always strive to get. You know, and don't get me wrong, I used to work my ass off for it as well. But like my missus' thumbprints on my phone. What the fuck? No one's ever had access to my phone before. You know, even when I had nothing to hide, no one, that was my phone. That's my space. You're not going in there. My missus password for my phone or whatever, you know, because I've got nothing to hide. I don't need to lie. And that is so freeing to be able to just be that open and honest with someone. Now, I had 2 kids in my 2 marriages, and they stopped getting in contact with me when I was an absolute scumbag. And they're still not in contact with me. I haven't spoke to either of my daughters in about 2 years, and it breaks my fucking heart if I try and think about it too much, because up to a point, up to a certain point in their life, I was a wicked dad. I was a stay-at-home dad for the first 2 years of my youngest one's life. You know, I quit my job and my missus went to work. I was present. But they don't remember that, you know, they're teenagers. Um, but I've had to make peace with the fact they're not in my life at the moment. And I've had to make peace with the fact they may never come back into my life, but that's because of my actions. It's because of what I've done and how I've made them feel. But what I have got, yeah, in my peaceful, content life is an absolute diamond of a missus. Could not ask for a kinder, more understanding person. Not with me, not just with me, but with her kids, both autistic. One of them's ADHD as fuck. And life can be testing around here. Testing, I tell you. I've done inventory a few times around the kids, but you know, working my program and following her lead on how she parents the kids rather than how I think they should be parenting kids, I've learned so much. I've learned so much about being a dad. Now, bearing in mind, I brought up 2 of my own daughters, 2 stepdaughters, and then when I was in the last relationship, she had a daughter and a son. So I've been through the ringer with kids and stepkids. But I've learned more in the last 18 months or so than the rest of my life. Little boy, when I first moved in, really cagey around me. His dad told him he should say horrible things to me and all this other stuff, you know, because the new guy on the scene. That little boy comes to me, Keiron, can you cook steak tonight? And we'll watch an Adam Sandler film. We'll have a boys' night and the girls can go in the bedroom. And I'm like, yes, we can, mate. Of course we can. Who doesn't want steak and watch Adam Sandler, right? Cooking the steak, we sit there, boy snuggles up to me like that. Me and her daughter, she's 13 years old. We've got such a good relationship. She's never known her dad. You know, she said to me a little while back, she said, you know, she had a stepdad figure from my missus' last relationship. She goes, you're such a father figure to me. Fucking hell, what a beautiful thing for an innocent kid to say without realizing what she's saying. You know, my relationship with my missus is, it's just wonderful. We've been together 18 months, 2 years, something like that. And you know, not once have we had an argument. Not one single argument. I dread the day it comes. I do, but we communicate so well. You know, I can still be a dickhead at times. I know it won't come as a shock to some of you that know me, but I can actually be a bit of a dickhead at times. Um, However, I'm very aware of how I'm a dickhead, and I put it right double quick on toast. You know, I don't let it fester for hours. I don't use it as an excuse to get out the door like I used to. I fix it. And our relationship's just blooming. And my family, my mum, who used to have sleepless nights, you know, my mum is just a different person now. And this is all because of recovery. You can see it, doing as I was told. My parents, yeah, when I told my mum I had to ring this geezer at 10 o'clock, she goes, I bet you rang him at 10:01 though, didn't you? Because I never done as I was told. I always had to push it just a little bit, something. But I don't. I ring him at 10 o'clock, well, 10:15 now. I set an alarm. I set an alarm for 10:14, set an alarm for 10:15, because my head's all over the place. I might forget the call. But I done what I was told. I sought guidance, help, advice from my fellows, from my sponsor, from my sponsor's sponsor. And I am just living such a content life. Like I say, life shows up from time to time, but it's funny for everyone, whether you're addicts or not. But I handle it so much better than I ever have in my life. So, you know, I've just got so much gratitude to show for this program, what it's done for me with the work that I put in as well. Because it doesn't hand it to you on a plate. You've got to put the graft in, you know. You have to put the effort in. You have to show commitment and consistency. Consistency in everything I do. Because when I'm not consistent, I feel it. I feel my head slipping a little bit. I feel a little bit more grouchy than normal. If I don't make, you know, if I could be laying on the bed watching a bit of TV thinking, I'm a bit of a crabby fucker, I know, I'm going to ring Henry up. And I'm like, no, Henry will be asleep, he works nights. No, all right, well, I'll ring him later. I won't ring Harry. I won't ring Josh. No, because Henry's asleep, so that's it. So I sit there watching TV and I feel myself getting more crabby and more crabby. Do you know what I mean? Um, and I'll look back and go, that's 3 hours gone by there. If you'd have rang someone straight away, you wouldn't be such a crabby little dickhead right now. Um, it's just about, you know, knowing my head from what I've learned and the effort I've put in. So if you're new on this meeting, or if you're back from a relapse, get yourself a sponsor, get yourself a big book, do a little bit of colouring in, work some steps, put some effort in, and you can be happy. There's a lot of smiling faces in there. I hope it's not because the light's shining on my head. It's a really badly placed light, and I've just done my hair tonight for the meeting with a collar on. My sponsor told me that's where a collar. Um, just do it. Get a sponsor, get a big book, do the work, start sponsoring others, and you can live a happy, joyous, free life. Thank you very much, everybody.